If you're thinking about putting your audio-only podcast onto YouTube, there's a few questions around it, like how does it look, how's it ingested, how's it updated? I'm going to take a look at the process now to show you exactly how it works. I'll take you through this by adding one of our own shows to a new YouTube channel. So this is the Creator Toolbox. I'm going to go to New Podcast. Two options, of course. You can create a new podcast just in YouTube. I'll show that in a different video, but that's really a different process because if you already have a podcast, you want it available everywhere, as in on Apple Pods, on Spotify, on all the different directories. You want to create your podcast on a normal podcast hosting platform like Alitu, like Captivate, like Transistor, and then submit the RSS feed from there. So a little bit of explanation here. Of course, if you don't have video, YouTube is going to add something. So they add a static image. Now, we'll have a look at how that looks in a minute, but you'll have things like your artwork potentially taking up that space. But let's show how that works. So first thing is the RSS feed. So if you run a podcast, you probably know what this is, but if you don't, RSS feed is just the page, the code that tells all the directories what episodes are actually in your show. And you'll have this from your hosting platform. So I'll show you where to get it in one platform, in particular in Alitu, for example. This is where we host the Creator Toolbox. All our episodes here, go into Settings. And in here, you've got your podcast distribution. And that's where you get your RSS feed. So this is the address here. If I copy RSS feed, that copies it into my clipboard. I can come back to YouTube and I paste it in there. Let's get into that. Checking the RSS feed now with YouTube. Of course, next thing YouTube wants to do is check who you are. So this is generally in your settings in your podcast. Your podcast details will often ask for a creator email, podcast creator's email. So that'll pop up in there. Sometimes you can remove it, so it's good to actually remove that in general use because you'll get a bunch of spam through from people trying to sell you services. But when you're verifying, generally you have to put that in and you can remove it again afterwards. So I'll send the code here. I've retrieved that code from my email, paste that in, and we are verified. So now we have a couple of options. Do you want to upload all episodes in your RSS feed? That's your full podcast. Do you want to upload just recent ones or not upload any and just start from scratch? So generally, if you are submitting your podcast to a directory, you want that directory to show all episodes in that podcast feed. So that's what I would suggest with YouTube, unless you've got a particularly good reason to only upload any in the last little while or something like that. Now, worth noting here is the paid promotion tick box as well. So if you have included sponsorship, sponsored content, advertising, anything like that, you do need to tick this if you want to comply with YouTube's rules. So pop that in. All it does is shows a little banner that says this contains paid promotion. No kind of insight yet whether it affects how your podcast appears in YouTube otherwise, like the algorithm, all that kind of stuff. But our show doesn't have any paid promotion in it. So I'm going to hit next on that. And then visibility. This is just letting you know that they don't automatically make all of those episodes visible. They'll upload them all to YouTube. They'll get them all organized into the YouTube podcasting directory, but they'll make sure they're private initially. So you can go through, you can check them, and then you can bulk select them all and make them all public once you're ready, once you're confident the quality is there. All right, so I'm going to hit save now, and we'll see how the podcast appears inside YouTube. Now, as YouTube are saying here, of course, it can take a little while to upload a podcast because obviously there might be a lot of episodes. This is a relatively new show, 12 episodes, so it might not take too long for them to ingest all those episodes, process them, get them displayed, but it can take a little while. While it's processing, we can have a quick look at the podcast settings in here. If I just click on Creator Toolbox, you can see that it's drawn in the podcast title, the description, the thumbnail, and the visibility is down here too. So like we said, it starts out private and you can just hit that one drop down to make it public once you're ready. But if you do want to change anything for YouTube, you can do it in here. Generally, you want your description, your title to be the same everywhere. So likely you're not going to change it here unless, again, you've got a really good reason that YouTube is different. Okay, we're all uploaded and processed. So let's have a look inside. You can see that if we click videos over on the left here, we can see our full list of episodes. So this shows everything that's been uploaded and ingested from the RSS feed. You can see all of your episodes here. You can see they're still private, but they have retained all their metadata, which is great. Still got the right dates, right titles. We can have a look inside one. I found the formatting has been a bit funny. I'll introduce a wee bit of extra space like this. So if you have a lot of episodes, you're not going to want to go in and start editing all of this. It's fine really for YouTube, I suppose. But if you did really feel the need, you can go in and edit it from here. Now, the interesting thing is, as soon as you edit something in an episode here though, whether it's the title or the description, it locks that episode on YouTube. Whereas if you haven't made any edits, you go and edit your RSS feed. So if you change a title on a previous episode, an old one or the most recent, then it will upload in YouTube. YouTube keeps checking that RSS feed. So you can edit that original episode in your podcast hosting platform and YouTube will pick that up, but only as long as you haven't edited these episodes in YouTube directly. As soon as you make an edit in YouTube directly, it locks that episode on YouTube and it won't pick up any edits from there. The other thing you might want to do occasionally is to update the audio as well. Maybe you want to go and change the audio from an old episode. Take out an advert, add in something new, change something that's completely changed. I mean, I'd suggest normally you don't want to do this. Old episodes are fine, you just update it on a new one, but sometimes it's required. So what you do is you go to the episode, click the three buttons, the three dots, whatever you want to call them, options, and you can say here, re-upload from RSS feed. That'll then make YouTube go and re-get that audio from your RSS feed after you've updated it and bring it in and update that episode within YouTube. A couple of other things worth noting. Of course, you do have YouTube analytics in here. YouTube gives us some good analytics on this. It'll tell you how many people are listening all the way through, when they drop off, that kind of stuff. If you can grow a decent podcast listening audience on YouTube, those kind of insights can be really useful. You can, of course, get them in Apple Podcasts as well. Go to Apple Podcasts Connect and you can see drop-off time, listen time, all that kind of stuff. But YouTube will give you that kind of data as well. So last step, now that I'm happy with this, all looks good, I'm going to make it public. So I'm going to go over here, visibility, public, click save. So that makes the podcast itself public. Let's go down here. We'll hit default RSS visibility public as well, so that anytime you upload a new episode to your RSS, that's going to be public as well. And then the final step, I didn't expect to have to do this, to be fair, but for some reason, if I go into videos, these are all still private. I could go through, if I don't have too many, I could go through and manually click each one as public like this. But that's going to take a while if I have hundreds of episodes. It doesn't seem to be a bulk select here. So a way around that, if you have literally hundreds or even just dozens of episodes, go over to channel content on the left here, videos, and you can see all of the videos on your channel. That includes your podcast ones. If you go to filter, you should be able to filter for private. And then that shows you, if you now have hundreds of private podcast episodes, you can then select all on the top left here, because in this view, at least you do have that bulk select. And then you've got actions. Let's see, edit visibility. And I can change them all to public. Here, update videos. I didn't expect to have to do that, to be fair. I thought maybe the changing the visibility in the channel settings would do that. And maybe it does if I give it a bit of time. So this is one option if that doesn't update for you. So that's my podcast live on YouTube, easy as that. If you do want to read this through, I've got a full article on how this works over at our website, thepodcasthost.com. There'll be a link in the description for that. Just pop down there to see a link to that. And if you want more support for everything podcasting, please do join our community, the IndiePod community, which has got our premium academy inside. If you need the coaching, the support, the motivation just to get that show out there, growing, monetized, the show that you've always dreamed of, just go over to thepodcasthost.com/academy. That's thepodcasthost.com/academy. If you have any more questions around YouTube or podcasting in general, do pop them in the comments. I always keep an eye on them, so I'll answer any questions you have there, especially since YouTube podcasting is changing, updating. changing the rules all the time. So if you have any questions about anything that's updated in the last little while, pop them in the comments below and I'll answer them. Thanks again for watching. I've been Colin Gray from thepodcasthost.com, and I'll see you out there.